Welcome back to Under Oath. In this case, we have a young lady who they thought wasn't actually injured. They thought her mother was suffering from Munchausen.
Munchausen by proxy. Mom has it because she keeps showing up with the kid, saying the kid's hurt or not feeling well. And those are classic symptoms, or that is the evidence of someone having that syndrome.
Well, here's what's going on. My favorite drug, Craig. My favorite.
You have a favorite drug?
Yes, my favorite drug because it requires absolutely zero competence
Oh, ketamine.
to prescribe it.
You're talking about ketamine.
Ketamine.
Yes.
The old ketamine drug, which non-psychiatrists can prescribe to avoid suicidal states and things like that.
Off-label.
Off-label. And they get $500 a pop, and ketamine costs what, 50 cents?
Something like that. Didn't you have a doctor admit?
We're not discussing that case because that case still haunts me because I'm disgusted by the way this stuff is given out. That they create, there are companies out there that actually have franchises, little offices all over where they prescribe this miracle drug that'll keep you from supposedly killing yourself. Now, this young lady who was a teenager is on high doses of ketamine.
Well, she started off at age 10. I mean, I can't
Yeah.
say she's a teenager
Well, she is
then when
now.
she started. She is 17
Yeah.
now. Or
Well-
at least 17 when the Netflix documentary Take Care of Maya was filmed.
Now, the problem with documentaries, you never know if they're true or false.
That's true. The whole making a murderer was completely debunked with the documentary Convicting a Murderer.
I don't know if we even call them documentaries anymore.
I think you should have to have some sort of legal requirement to be called a documentary because the default is when you turn something on and it says it's a documentary, you take what the people are telling you at face value.
Fact.
Like, these are facts. You're telling me facts and you're telling me the whole truth. You're not leaving out incredibly important details.
See, the problem with I find documentaries is also members of the jury will say they haven't seen it or they're not watching it, but they're going to watch it. They're going to watch it during the trial.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to get evidence on this thing. And now currently it's in trial. Now, one of the cute things that they're showing about this trial is the Facebook pictures.
What do we tell our clients about Facebook pictures, Jeff? What do we tell them?
Always the same. Don't post anything.
And
This-
the reason we tell you,
Oh.
the reason we tell our clients that is, yes, of course, you're going to have days that are better than others. Of course, when the camera is going, you're going to smile for the camera. It's not that you're not allowed to have fun, right? You can have a miserable existence and maybe somebody invites you to a Halloween party and you have fun for 30 minutes.
You smile.
Yeah, you smile. You hold your drink up. You don't look incredibly sad when you know someone's taking a picture of you. Of course you don't. But what'll happen is the defense attorney will use that one little snippet and they'll make it seem as though that's your entire life. And how could you possibly be hurt? How could you possibly have permanent injury? Look, you're smiling for this picture. You can't be that hurt. And that is a disgusting thing for defense attorneys to do. And I wish we didn't have to tell you to not post stuff on Facebook, but we do because that's what they'll do.
You know what I'd like to be able to do? Because this is a tactic that defense attorneys for insurance companies, not for regular people, for insurance companies.
Yeah.
The insurance companies, they get it, they go through that, they find pictures of you smiling, and that means you haven't been injured. Now, what I would like to be able to do is this, and I came up with this right now. I want pictures of the defendant. Why? I just want them. Here's a picture of you smiling. Are you smiling because you hurt somebody? Are you smiling because this person's been out there? You injured a person. How could you be happy?
How could you be
knowing
happy?
that this person has suffered,
A
that they're
year later?
suffering a year later? You're smiling.
A year later, do you mean to tell me
You're in a
that
lawsuit. You don't care?
you don't care about this other person who you hurt? You admitted that it was your fault.
And it wouldn't get in for 10 seconds.
No.
We could never get that in
Not for a second.
because insurance companies, believe it or not, insurance companies rule the roost. They pay the politicians. They do what they need to do. They have a huge lobby. They can buy off laws. And in this case, here's a picture of you smiling.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to prove to me that that moment was taken in with you being hurt or not hurt. Oh, we can't prove it. We just like to show it's smiling. And that's BS. And You know
Yeah,
what?
prejudice is the jury. We have an opportunity to get it out. Kind of depends on whether or not the judge is sympathetic to the defense or not when it comes to that kind of stuff.
It always comes in. You know, it always comes in, man. It's painful. So what's happening now is, in this case with Maya, they're showing pictures of her at prom. They're showing her in a nice dress. They're showing her in the back of a limo. They're showing her smiling. And they're saying that she's not injured. Now, here's the issue I have. Her mother wound up taking her own life. So it could be argued by the defense in this case that she did have some kind of mental issue, because obviously it was strong enough that she took her own life, and that to prove that they didn't have these issues.
What a disgusting tactic that would be for the defense. You mean we put you in a situation where we took your child from you, we stole your kid, and we said that the reason we had to take your kid away from you is because you're a bad mom? And then you kill yourself because you know the actual truth, and we find out later on she actually does have this syndrome that you told us she had? Oops. Oh, are you kidding me? Oops.
It's disgusting, but you and I both know. Craig and I had a trial. We're not going to say where. We were in trial about 4 months ago together. And the defense attorney on the other side basically was just making statements that we were the evil people in the situation. We convinced this client to do all this stuff. We did this. And Craig described the tactic to the jury in the closing, that the tactic is whatever direction we go in, they argue the opposite. It doesn't even matter whether it's true or false.
Yeah, you're always wrong. You're always wrong, no matter what you would do. And here's what I told that jury. For example, ambulance shows up. The plaintiffs have two choices. Either you get into the ambulance and you go to the hospital, or you decline to get in the ambulance and you go home and try and work it off. And no matter what the plaintiffs did in this situation, they were wrong. If they had gotten in the ambulance, well, the argument would have been, you're just milking this. This was a tiny little fender bender of an accident. Why would you go to the ambulance for this low level, low impact, low speed accident? Or if you go to your hotel room and wait till you get back to Florida, well, obviously you weren't that hurt. If you were hurt, you would have gotten into the ambulance and gone to the hospital. So you can't do anything right. That is the number one defense tactic, and that is mischaracterization. They mischaracterize everything. And that's just one example.
Now, people are so used to TV. They're expecting the perfect piece of evidence to come in, the DNA, everything else like that. Very rarely in a trial is evidence going to be perfect. It's always a he said, she said. There's always trust involved. There's nothing out there that's going to go, this is 100% to show this didn't happen. You either have to like the person or hate the person. But you and I were in a trial where there was somebody on the jury giving the thumbs up to the defense attorney before we even started.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's unfortunate.
And in situations like that, you're thinking to yourself, well, how much is the jury bringing their own stuff into it? And it's so difficult to even get somebody kicked off the jury. We had a jury where two people knew the defendant. Their kids played with their kids. And the judge said, they said they could be unbiased.
I remember.
So how bad do you want to have to be on a jury where, put it this way, if I knew you, if you were my partner, which you are, and I'm on the jury, they go, oh, well, you've been partnering this jury. Well, I can be unbiased. I've had hundreds of lunches with them, but I can rule. I can be unbiased.
Sure, I could.
Stop it.
I could see myself awarding money against this person I know really well, who I'm going to see again in the future.
Now, you have to imagine every time you see a snippet from a jury, know that not only are you not hearing all the facts in the case, but you're also hoping that the journalist or the reporter or the blogger or whatever we want to call this person is actually giving you the facts in a non-skewed way.
Yeah, getting back to the whole Netflix reporting of an issue, right? And this not only damages their reporting and their, quote, documentaries on what you catch them doing those kinds of tactics, but for every other documentary they ever do. Can you ever trust Netflix again after you watch Making a Murderer and then you see what they left out when you watch Convicting a Murderer? How can you possibly trust Netflix ever again?
I don't think you can. I think the problem you have is it's a story. It's for entertainment. The news is entertainment.
They need to say that. They need to say this is for entertainment
They won't.
purposes only.
They won't. Now, if you
Because no one
started
will
off,
watch it.
if you started off every news broadcast and said,
They
this
should.
show is sponsored by blah, blah, blah. We charge this much to advertisers, and we determine the advertising rate based on our ratings.
This is CBS News, brought to you by Pfizer, and we're here to report on
Kaufman and
COVID
Lynd.
vaccinations. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's where it gets painful. I think when it comes down to it, the trust factor we have in our juries, the trust factor we have in our news, the trust factor we have online. I mean, I think of how careful I have to be. I got in an argument with somebody.
Well, you're just assuming that the hospital is 100% wrong. Let me take the hospital side just for a second. I don't mean the defense attorney side with their tactics, because they have terrible tactics. But let me take the hospital side for a moment. What are you supposed to do? Like we live in a society where we want people, teachers, hospital workers, social workers, police, we want them to report if they suspect that a kid is being abused. Do we not?
Of course we do.
Of course we do. And if you have something that looks like kind of the hallmark
Fishy
symptoms of potential Munchausen by proxy, aren't you supposed to report? Like, if you didn't report that, wouldn't you also be running afoul
But how many cases
of your
do you
ethics,
think,
of your
but how many
moral
cases
duties?
do you think these exist? A Munchausen.
I have no idea.
It's one of those rare things. It is rare.
Yeah, sure. But what do you?
So
are
you
the person?
got to be really sure to call
I
that one
understand.
out.
I understand, but what do we want the person reporting? Do we want them to make the assessment on whether or not it's valid or not, or do we want them to just shut the F up and report if they think that there's something wrong? I want the second one. I don't want them making an assessment. Let the professionals, well, assuming that we can count on them, but let someone who is trained to make those assessments make it. Not you, teacher, who knows how the West was settled and all about geography and world history. I don't know if I necessarily want you deciding whether or not this parent has Munchausen by proxy.
Well, you know who's going to make that decision? The jury in this case. And they're going to have to decide whether to reward this family $220 million.